Hi there, it's Nicole. Today the end of October, so it's Halloween. I think it's a good time for me to climb out of the doing nothing on BookTube cave and start talking about book again. I recently read a book that maybe a lot of you guys have already read. It's called My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otasha Mushfaq. It's talking about a young woman who decided to sleep in for a whole year in order to get into a rebirth state. Looking at the title, I realized that I have been in a rest mood on BookTube for a couple of months lately. It's not intentional and I didn't get to a rebirth and I didn't accomplish some important things in my personal life either, but it's just a rest and semi-relaxation phase in my BookTube journey. So today I want to talk about two books that I liked a lot during my rest and semi-relaxation period on BookTube, and also with a little bit of my thought but not really a review for those books blended in. First of all, let's talk about the books that I mentioned before, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. It's a very quirky book and it actually can be described into one Chinese character, that is Sang. It is a recent phenomenon describing young people who's being decadent, depressed, and pessimistic. It's actually a showing of anxiety, but with a hair of I don't care in it. The story was set in New York City in the very first year of the 21st century. Our protagonist decided to pause her life, stop working and interacting with others, and concentrate on one thing, sleeping. She took us along with her whole sleeping project, and with the initial motivation and some of the interaction with human beings that she had to deal with. Throughout the book, our protagonist always talks about her past parents and the untrustworthy relationship with them and the burden that her parents put on her. And also she talks about the friendship and other relationships that she couldn't seem to get rid of. She had a very ironical voice when she talks about the people around her, but this is a classic example of watch what they do, not what they say. So a lot of the times you'll wonder if there is something more going on that she doesn't even realize. I don't know if because the book was published last year, I was surprised to see the relatableness of the story to today's young people's life. As I mentioned before, this is actually a description of the cultural phenomenon in China called Sang. Although the concept was fairly new, but the stress and the confusion caused by being young people and had to absorb all of the thing all of the sudden was never a new thing under the sun. With that being said, this book does not make you question the reasons behind all those negativities. It's actually not about those negativities. It's a book tells your story in a total different and unrealistic storyline. Although if you are a fully energized and a very positive people, this may not apply to you, but for me as a very low energy and pessimistic people, I feel like this book tells my thought 90% of the time. And also I was able to read it in one of my down episodes, so I think this book was just in time and it's actually very delightful to read. The next book I want to talk about is a heavier topic one, that is Pachinko by Mingjing Li. I was very late to the party of Pachinko. Well, party may not be the right word here, but after reading this book, I understood why this book was so highly praised. It's a multi-generation novel set in almost the entire century of the 20th century. It's talking about a Korean family who's kind of forced to immigrate to Japan because of the Japan-Korea War. Well, there are so many discussions already about the difficulties in the book that the people faced, and the immigration culture and the day-to-day life, the hard living situation, and so on, so I don't think I will add more to that. But one thing struck me the most was toward the end of the book, there's one member in the family went to the United States for study and he met a Korean-American girlfriend. The girl, although she's from a Korean immigration family, she had a huge culture gap with her boyfriend, with our protagonist family, because she was born and raised in the US. And the thing she couldn't understand the most was the concept of North Korea and South Korea, because when her family came to the United States, there was just one big whole Korea and not a North or a South one. So she couldn't tell people every time she's been asked, are you from North Korea or South Korea? This is something that I have never thought of before. I cannot imagine if you are traveling or if you lived in a foreign country and a part of your country just split it, or even worse, disappeared. It's like a real life, the Terminal movie. If you don't know, the man loses his country in the airport. But this time, pachinko hit me more because when you think about it, during the Korea War, there were people who needed to face this issue straight up. The other thing that I can't help but notice was the role that China plays in the early 20th century. I was so used to see that period of history from inside because, of course. So it's a total different angle if people see that from a non-Chinese people perspective. During the first half of 20th century, China experienced some severe revolutions which lead to the build of the China that we know today. But it's very easy for me to forget that other countries are also affected by those revolutions and also were impacted by the results of the revolution. It's very interesting to think if you see the history in a period of time for one country and also you see other countries' history during the same period of time and see their correspondence, it's just something that I found is fascinating and interesting. Although the history in pachinko was a rather sad one, but if you look at any events and see it from the different angle, you will be surprised at how they connected together. Well, those are some pieces of thought that I have to the two memorable books that I remembered the most during my rest and semi-relaxation phase. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and also because I have been absent on BookTube for so long, so please tell me on the comment down below what book did you read in the past few months and which one is the most memorable one. Or you can just simply say hi, and I'm really happy to talk about books again here. And don't forget to happy reading. I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!